Hey guys, let's jump right into it. Today I'm going to show you some of my favorite guitars, specifically my favorite two. Okay? And I'm going to let you guess, but if you know me at all, really only got two options. So I'm going to introduce you first to my number one electric guitar, and that is Kimmy. Now this guitar means so much to me. Honestly, it's my absolute favorite instrument that I've ever played, and it just sings. It just plays well. It looks amazing. The top on it is just absolutely incredible, and I have a connection with this guitar like I've never had with any other instrument I've ever played, and it is just so much fun to play and sounds amazing. I show a little backstory on it. So it was kind of like love at first sight. And being a lefty guitar player, it's really tough to find good gear unless you're just going to buy it used, because it's so difficult to find it new unless you buy it straight from like a dealer or get it custom ordered. So I've always been a Craigslist freak and totally search out for the best gear all the time. And it just was kind of one of those little guitar safaris. And I was actually on Reverb and found this in Santa Monica, California. And just from that first photo that I saw of it, I just knew. I was like, that's the one. I tried getting it out of my brain. I could not stop looking at the photo of it for 2 days. I put it as my background on my phone. I was so obsessed with it. And I didn't necessarily have the money for it. Well, I did, but I didn't want to spend the money on it at the time. And I slept on it for 2 days. My folks always told me, if you really want to do something, sleep on it for a night, and then sleep on it for another night. If you still think that it's the right thing to do, go ahead and do it. So I did that, and I woke up on that third day knowing that that was my guitar. So I ordered it, and this is the most expensive guitar I've ever bought. And this was about $3,800, I think. And I had never spent that much on a guitar, and well, I can't say that I won't ever again, but hopefully it won't hurt as bad the next time I do it as it did when I bought this one. But sat in agony waiting for it to arrive via UPS, and on the day that it was supposed to arrive, you know, like they give you the estimate of when it's supposed to be there. Well, this one said like by the end of the day, like 5 o'clock. 4:45. So I wake up and am in no hurry at all, and because I'm assuming it's going to come at least 3 o'clock at the earliest, and I hear a knock on the door, and I'm getting dressed, and so I don't go get the door, because we usually, in my old place, we would always have people swinging by for like telemarketers and sales pitch guys or whatever, so I just ignored it. And then I go out and I look at the door, and I see the dreadful "Sorry we missed you" ticket hanging on the door. Oh my God. I was heartbroken. I was devastated. I was completely devastated. And without even thinking, I run in the house, grab my keys, and immediately start trying to find this UPS guy, because I'm like, I am not waiting an entire extra day to get this guitar. I've got to get it now. So thank you, Pops, for giving me that terrible gene of impatience, because it definitely reared its ugly head that day. So I jump in the car and I start flying around town trying to find this UPS guy. And little did I know, there are lots of them. And they all have different routes, and then they all go at different times of the day, depending on their shipments and all of this stuff. So I start calling around businesses. Hey, have you gotten your UPS shipment? Hey, have you gotten this? I do this all day. And I conned the lady at the Nashville Zoo because she apparently was the same UPS guy goes to their place and drops packages off midday, and she said that she would hold him there for me until I showed up. So I do that, and unfortunately it didn't end up working out, and I had to go back and then finally wait for the next day, and it showed up in the morning, and the same guy came up, and I just kept it to myself, and I signed for the package, and I said thank you very much. And I knew after that entire day, I wasted the entire day trying to track this UPS guy, and I had learned my lesson after that. I was like, I need to work on my patience. So, but anyways, I ended up getting the guitar, totally fallen in love with it, and this has become my absolute number one that I go everywhere and do everything with. If I'm playing guitar, it's usually with this. So that's my favorite electric guitar. And then for my favorite acoustic guitar, we have a true gem and a family heirloom put into one, and probably the best guitar I've ever played, all stacked up into one guitar, and that is Betsy. So this is a 1965 Gibson Dove, and this was my grandfather's, and I remember being a young boy going over to his house, and he was a horse trainer, so he was all over the place all the time for different shows and moving to different farms and ranches, and just was all over the states, but was usually in somewhere in Texas or in the South at least. But everywhere he went, there were two constants. One was the lazy chair in the living room, and then second was Betsy sitting right next to it. And I remember being young and seeing that guitar and just being totally awestruck by it. It's an absolutely beautiful instrument, and totally fell in love with it. But it was always kind of out of reach. That was something that you just did not mess with. That was Grandpa's pride and joy. And he actually had it, so the story goes, and we've heard a couple of different versions of the story. Closer to the end of Grandpa's life, he changed it a little bit, but we're pretty sure on the origins of it. And so anyways, it goes like he was in a new ranch and was starting to take over all of the horse training there, and was cleaning out the attic of one of the houses on the property that they were about to move in, and ended up finding Betsy, and found a mid-60s Gibson SG as well. Well, he decided to sell the SG and keep Betsy, and this was probably mid-70s or so, and this was a 65, so about 7 years or so after it was produced, and ended up keeping Betsy for the rest of his entire life. And fast forward to when I was around and born, it was his total pride and joy. And then fast forward again, I started playing guitar, checking guitar out, getting more involved, playing all the time, and he let me actually restring it one time when we went over for some holidays over to their house, and that was like a ritual to me. I was just so happy to just have my hands on it, and so that kind of started my love affair with it. I was probably 16 or so, and then it was about 2 years now, 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half. Actually, it was exactly a year and a half. Grandpa got pretty bad cancer, and ended up coming up to Nashville to kind of hang out with all of us and just get to see the place, because I had just moved here. And took him to the Grand Ole Opry and did all the Nashville things and got to hang out. Had an awesome, amazing time that I still reminisce about, and really am happy that I got to spend that time with him. And on the last night that we were hanging out, they had an Airbnb just like a mile away from my house that we were all at. And we were sitting in the living room just talking, and Grandpa points over to Betsy's case and told me that he brought her along. Of course, I already knew that because I spotted the case the minute that I walked in. And he pointed over and he's like, why don't you grab Betsy and restring it so you can play it and play a little bit for us. Well, hearing that was pretty well just like your dad handing you his prized Porsche keys and saying, have a little bit of fun, you've earned it. And I was just awestruck. I mean, he had to tell me twice just to get me to even remember, oh, yeah, oh, okay. And I'll go and I grab the guitar and restring it as fast as I can. And I was like, man, I was so ecstatic and so excited. This was like the biggest moment ever for me. And so I sat down on the couch with him and just started picking, and I just lost myself. I probably played for 15 minutes or so. It felt like 2. And I was just having the time of my life, and it sounded so amazing. It's absolutely beautiful sounding instrument. And look over and see and hear someone. I stopped playing for a little while and I hear someone crying, and I assume, you know, it was my mom or someone else in the room, because Grandpa was a straight-laced Catholic man. He did not really show much emotion at all, ever. And I look up and it's Grandpa crying. And it was one of those moments in my life where time just kind of stopped for a second. And it was like the big man in the sky was just like, are you here right now? Because you need to be. This is a very important moment in your life. And it was, and I was present, and I felt that moment, and it really hit me. And I'll never forget it, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, thank you for letting me hear Betsy sing one last time. Man, that was pretty crazy to hear. It really got me. And I'll never forget that. It was a really beautiful moment for both of us. And we sat there together, and I played a little bit more, and spent a little bit more time together, and they dropped me off after. And that was the last time I ever saw my grandfather. And then afterwards, he passed away a couple of weeks after that. And we all got together and went down for the funeral in Texas. And one of his final wishes was for me to play Betsy at the funeral. And that was another moment. There was another moment where it was like, wow, this is surreal. This is happening. And he wanted me, again, straight-laced Catholic man. I assumed that he wanted me to play a hymn or wanted me to play some folk kind of song or anything like that. And nope, he wanted me to play While My Guitar Gently Weeps, an acoustic version. And I was like, okay, I can do it. And that was the most rock song that I had ever heard him I didn't even know that he listened to anything like popular music. I just assumed he listened to mostly secular stuff. And so it was a really beautiful, amazing tribute to him, and I hold it as one of my proudest moments in my life to have been able to do that and to share that moment with everyone. But man, looking out in the crowd of those people while I was playing on Grandpa's prized guitar and seeing all those people that just absolutely adored him the same way that I did and appreciated this instrument as much as I did and do and will forever. It was a beautiful moment. So truly my favorite guitar. And so after that, he left it to me in the will. And then going home, I just knew I had to get this thing primed and ready to go for the rest of its life, for the rest of my life, because I wanted to be able to give this to my grandson or granddaughter, if I ever have kids at all, or whoever this guitar ends up with. But I wanted it to be in as good a condition as I could have it. So I brought it to Blom Guitars in South Tennessee and told them I don't care what it costs, I don't care how long it takes, I just want this to become as good as it can be, and I want you to get it to be able to last for my grandchildren to be able to have the same experience with it. So he had it for 6 months. This thing was in rough shape when we brought it down there, and the whole body was warped, had only one pick guard on it, and it was they use real tortoise shell in the pick guard, and so when that starts to oxidize, it starts to kill all of the lacquer that's on the guitar. You can actually see some browning here as well from where that old pick guard was and started to oxidize. So we ended up taking that off, and we contacted Gibson Custom, and they were kind enough to make us 2 brand new pick guards. They're a little bit different from one another. This one is embossed and kind of pressed in. You can see the colors and all of that is actually done by hand, because they don't have a lefty pickguard machine at the factory, so they have to do them all by hand. And so that's why usually lefties are custom order only. And then, but they do have a machine for the right side. So they screen printed this one, still with the mother of pearl dove inlays, but then they had to hand make this one. It took them like 2 months to be able to get done. And anyways, everything else is completely all original. And what I did with the old pickguard was I took it off and framed it, and then gave that to my father for a Christmas present so he could have a little bit of Betsy as well. And I wanted him to have the guitar, but we kind of had multiple sit-downs about how I needed to have it and utilize it and play it and cherish it more than he would, because he would just look at it. And it's true, I get to play on this instrument and feel connected to my grandfather in a way that I never imagined that I could. And I feel such a huge amount of gratitude and respect and thankfulness that I get to be its keeper and get to make sure that this guitar is taken care of for the rest of my life. So those are my 2 favorite guitars. Hope you enjoyed hearing some stories about them. See how they sound.